You didn't click this by accident. Something inside you is tired of being strong, tired of waiting, tired of explaining your pain to people who don't really hear you. There's a quiet question you've been carrying, maybe for years now. Why is Alice silent with me when I'm trying so hard? If that thought has crossed your heart even once, stay with me. Because this message is not for everyone. But if you're still listening, it's because Allah allowed your patience to rise higher. You see, there's a kind of pain that doesn't collapse. It just sits inside you while you go on with life, smiling, functioning, praying, pretending you're okay. And nobody knows how heavy it really is. You've made dua in your quiet moments. You've asked softly. You've cried when no one was watching. And still delay. Still silence. And that's where the confusion starts. Because you're not running away from Allah. You're running toward Him. So why does it feel like nothing is changing? Let me say this gently. Allah's silence is not absence. It is attention. Before we go deeper, let me say this in a calm, sincere way. If this channel, Deen and Discipline, brings you moments like this, moments where you feel understood, not judged, then you're invited to like this video and subscribe. Not because of algorithms, but because these reminders are meant to return to you when you need them most. Now listen closely. Some people are answered quickly. Others are shaped first. And the ones who are shaped are usually the ones Allah intends to carry something heavy later. You may feel forgotten, but you are not ignored. You may feel delayed, but you are not denied. There's a reason your struggle feels personal. It's because it is. Allah doesn't test crowds the same way He tests individuals. Your test fits your soul perfectly, even if you don't understand it yet. Think about this. If Allah gave you everything you asked for the moment you asked for it, who would you become? Sometimes the delay is not about what you want. It's about who you're becoming while waiting. And I know waiting hurts. Waiting without answers hurts more. You look around and see people getting what you've been praying for. You wonder if you did something wrong. You wonder if you're unseen. But here's a truth most people never hear. Some du'as are too heavy to be answered in a rushed heart. So Allah slows time around you. He strips distractions. He brings you face to face with yourself. That loneliness you feel, it's not punishment. It's preparation. Because Allah does not let just anyone walk alone with Him. There's a reason you feel different lately. A reason you feel disconnected from shallow things. A reason old habits don't satisfy you anymore. This is what happens when Allah chooses depth over comfort for you. Most people never get past complaining about their pain. But you're still praying through it. That already tells me something about you. There's a level of patience that speaks louder than words. And your patience has been speaking. You might not realize this, but patience has a voice in the unseen world. And yours reached places your tears couldn't. When Allah delays, He is not saying no. He is saying not yet because you're not done becoming. There are doors that only open when your heart is strong enough to survive what's behind them. You've asked Allah for change, but Allah is asking you for trust. And trust is not built in ease. It's built when nothing makes sense and you still don't walk away. Let me pause here for a moment. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognizes this truth. And I want you to hold on to that feeling, because we're about to go deeper. There's a stage many people get stuck in spiritually. They pray, they wait, they get tired, and then they quietly give up inside, even if they still move their lips. But you didn't do that. You stayed soft in a hard season. That's rare. Allah knows the weight you carry that no one sees. He knows how many times you almost broke and didn't. That kind of restraint, that kind of patience is not ordinary. It's chosen behavior. Sometimes Allah delays your relief because He's protecting you from receiving it too early. Because if it came now, it would distract you from what He's building inside you. You think you're waiting for the answer, but the answer is waiting for you. Waiting for the version of you that won't lose Allah after receiving it. And that's the part nobody tells you. Some blessings pull people away from Allah. Some elevate them closer. Allah is careful with you. That's why your journey feels slower, deeper, more intense. You're not behind. You're being refined. And refinement is uncomfortable. Fire doesn't ask the gold how it feels, but it never burns it without purpose. If your heart feels stretched, if your soul feels tired but still hopeful, that's not weakness. That's transformation. Let me tell you something you may have never heard in this way. Allah listens to the silence between your duas too. He hears the sighs, the pauses, the moments you didn't even know what to ask for anymore. And sometimes, when you don't have the strength to speak, Allah accepts your patience as prayer, your endurance as worship, your restraint as devotion. This is why leaving this video early would be a mistake. Because what you're feeling right now, this recognition, this quiet calm, it's not random. You're being reminded of who you are to Allah. Not forgotten, not overlooked, not abandoned, chosen for something that requires depth. And I know that word, chosen, can feel heavy. Because chosen people suffer differently. They feel more. They reflect more. They carry more. But they are also protected in ways others never understand. You don't see the disasters Allah moved out of your path. You don't see the doors He kept closed to save you. One day, clarity will arrive quietly. Not as shock, but as peace. And you'll realize the delay didn't break you. It built you. As we begin to slow down now, I want you to reflect with me. What has this season been teaching you about yourself? About your dependence on Allah? About what truly matters? I want you to write it in the comments. Not for me, for you. Sometimes numbing the lesson is part of receiving it. And if you know someone who is silently struggling, someone who keeps saying I'm fine but is, share this with them. You might be the answer to a dua they didn't know how to make. In the next video, we'll talk about what to do when your faith feels heavy, but your heart still believes. When you're tired, but you don't want to give up. Until then, breathe. You're not late. You're not lost. Allah knows exactly where you are. And He's closer than you think. You're still here, and that matters more than you realize. Because most people leave when the message starts touching something real. They scroll away the moment their heart feels exposed. But you stayed. And that tells me you're not just listening with your ears. You're listening with your wounds. There's something I want you to understand about this season you're in. Allah does not waste pain. Not a single tear. Not a single night you stared at the ceiling asking, what am I doing wrong? You see, when Allah wants to elevate someone quietly, He places them in situations where only sincerity survives, where attention disappears, where applause is gone, where it's just you and Him. And that's where you've been living. You've been doing the right thing without anyone noticing, holding yourself back when you could have reacted, choosing patience when you had every right to complain, continuing to pray even when it felt dry. That's not normal faith. That's mature faith. Most people think being chosen means being gifted. but often it means being delayed. Because delay reveals what immediate success never can. It reveals who you are when nothing is happening, when no doors are opening, when no signs are obvious. And Allah watches that version of you very closely. There's a reason your test feels internal, why the battle is in your thoughts, why your heart feels heavy even when life looks fine on the outside. Allah is training your inner world, because the next phase of your life won't be survived by strength alone. It will be survived by stability. And stability is built right now in the unseen. Let me say something that may settle your heart. If Allah truly wanted to distance you, He would have made you careless. He would have made you numb. He would have made you forget to turn back to Him. But instead, you still remember Allah in your pain. That alone is a sign. There are people living easier lives than you who feel nothing toward Allah. And there you are struggling yet still connected. That connection is not accidental. It's protected. Sometimes Allah removes comfort so that faith becomes conscious, not casual. So that when ease finally arrives, you don't worship the ease instead of the giver. You've been asking, when will it change? But Allah has been asking, can you carry it yet? And I know that question feels unfair, because you're already tired. But tiredness doesn't disqualify you. It humanizes you. Even the strongest hearts get tired. They just don't give up. There's a difference between being exhausted and being finished. You're exhausted, but you're not finished. And Allah knows the exact moment when your heart will be ready for relief without losing its humility. That's why the timing is precise. Not late, not early, precise. If you've ever wondered why you feel misunderstood, why people don't really get you anymore, why conversations feel shallow, it's because your soul has been stretched beyond small talk. Allah has been deepening you. Depth comes with loneliness at first, because not everyone can meet you where Allah is taking you. But later, that same depth becomes wisdom, calm, and clarity. And others will feel safe around you without knowing why. That's how Allah turns pain into presence. Let me gently remind you of something important. Your worth is not measured by how quickly your dua is answered. Your worth is already known. Some answers are delayed because Allah is answering something bigger than what you asked. You asked for relief. Allah is giving you resilience. You asked for clarity. Allah is giving you certainty. You asked for love. Allah is teaching you how not to beg for it from the wrong places. This process doesn't look beautiful while you're inside it. But one day, you'll look back and recognize the mercy. And you'll realize that Allah was closer to you in the silence than He ever was in the noise. Stay with me a little longer, because what's coming next is something your heart needs to hear, especially if you've been feeling like you're doing everything right, yet nothing is moving. We're going to talk about why Allah allows you to feel forgotten when you're actually being trusted, and why that changes everything. There's a quiet kind of trust that Allah gives only to certain hearts. It doesn't come with excitement. It doesn't come with reassurance every step of the way. It comes disguised as responsibility. And that's why this phase feels heavy. Because Allah is trusting you with patience that others were never asked to carry. When Allah allows you to feel forgotten, it's not because you are unimportant. It's because you are stable enough not to run when reassurance is removed. Most people need constant signs. They need quick relief. They need visible proof that Allah is with them. But you're being asked to believe without constant evidence. That's not neglect. That's trust. There's a difference between being tested and being trained. Tests reveal what's inside you. Training builds what's missing. And right now, Allah is training your inner strength. This is why your progress doesn't look loud, why your growth doesn't look dramatic, why others may even think you're stuck. But internally, something is shifting. You're less reactive than before. You pause more. You reflect more. You don't rush to explain yourself like you used to. That's not weakness. That's grounding. Allah is teaching you how to stand firm without needing validation. Because where He's taking you, approval from people won't be available, and dependence on it would only slow you down. Let me say something that might bring clarity. If Allah wanted to replace you, He would have replaced you by now. If He wanted to move on, He would have disconnected your heart. But instead, you still care. You still feel. You still turn back to Him. That means you're still in the process. Sometimes Allah hides the outcome so that your intention stays pure. If you knew exactly when relief was coming, patience would turn into calculation. Faith would turn into expectation. And Allah wants your devotion, not your negotiation. So He lets the waiting stretch. Not to hurt you, but to cleanse you of attachment to outcomes. This is where many people lose their way. They confuse silence with rejection. They confuse delay with failure. But delay is often protection you can't see yet. You don't know what would have happened if that door opened earlier. You don't know what kind of version of you would have stepped into it. Allah does. And Allah cares about the version of you that survives the blessing, not just receives it. That's why He's slow with you, careful with you, intentional. I know there are moments you feel invisible, moments you wonder if anyone would notice if you stopped trying. But Allah notices effort even when results are absent. And effort matters more to Him than outcomes. Outcomes can be gifts. Effort is worship. Your continued turning toward Allah during confusion is not small. It's enormous. And the reason this feels so personal, so specific to your heart, is because it is. Allah doesn't mass-produce souls. He works individually. That's why comparison only hurts you here. Their timing is not your timing. Their path is not your path. You're not late to your life. You're early to your depth. And depth always feels lonely before it feels purposeful. Stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to talk about the moment right before things change. Not the dramatic kind. The quiet shift that happens inside you first. The moment Allah prepares your heart before He prepares your circumstances. And once you recognize that moment, you'll understand why everything had to unfold exactly this way. There is a moment that comes before things change, and most people miss it. Not because it's hidden, but because it's quiet. It doesn't arrive with excitement. It doesn't come with signs in the sky or sudden answers. It comes as stillness inside you. You start reacting less. You stop forcing explanations. You don't feel the same urgency to prove yourself anymore. And that can feel scary at first. Because for so long, your pain gave you momentum. Your struggle gave you something to push against. Your questions gave you energy. But now there's a strange calm. Not happiness. Not relief. Just a soft acceptance that says, I can survive this. That moment is not you giving up. It's you settling into trust. Allah always prepares the heart before He changes the situation. Because if the situation changes first, the heart might break under it. So He works silently, internally, gently. You may have noticed you're less attached to outcomes lately. That some things you begged for before don't feel as urgent now. That's not loss of desire. That's purification of intention. Allah is teaching you how to want things without being destroyed by them. And that is a powerful place to stand. This is where patience becomes something different. Not something you force, but something that lives inside you naturally. And when patience becomes natural, Allah begins to move. Not because you earned it, but because you're ready for it. There's a deep wisdom in divine timing that only reveals itself after surrender. Before that, it just feels like waiting. You've been thinking, why does everyone else seem to move forward while I'm standing still? But you're not standing still. You're stabilizing. And stability doesn't look impressive on the outside, but it's everything on the inside. A person who is stable can receive anything without losing themselves. That's who Allah is shaping you into. There's a subtle shift happening in your relationship with Allah too. You're not just asking anymore. You're listening. You're not just speaking. You're sitting with Him. That's intimacy. That's not for everyone. Most people only want Allah when they need something. But you're learning how to be with Allah even when you don't understand what He's doing. That level of faith is rare, and it doesn't come without pressure. This is why you felt stretched. Why old versions of you don't fit anymore. Why you can't go back, even if you tried. Allah has already moved you forward internally. Your life just hasn't caught up yet. But it will. And when it does, it won't feel overwhelming. It will feel right. Because the hardest part already happened inside you. You didn't break when you could have. You didn't harden when it would have been easier. You didn't walk away when you felt alone. That's not accidental. That's divine attention. As we move closer to the end, I want you to stay present. Because what comes next is about closure. About understanding what this entire season was really for. And once you see it clearly, the waiting will no longer feel wasted. It will feel meaningful. Stay with me. There's a reason this season touched parts of you that nothing else ever reached. Allah was not just delaying something outside of you. He was uncovering something inside you. You've been learning how to sit with yourself without running. How to face your thoughts without numbing them. How to feel pain without letting it turn into bitterness. That alone is a form of healing many people never experience. Most people escape their discomfort. They distract themselves. They rush into noise, relationships, achievements, anything that keeps them from sitting with the truth. But you were slowed down on purpose, because Allah wanted you awake. This is why your struggle felt psychological as much as it felt spiritual. Why your heart questioned things your mouth never said. Why you felt lost even while doing the right things. That confusion wasn't failure. It was reorientation. Allah was gently detaching you from false identities, from tying your worth to outcomes, from needing people to validate what Allah already knows about you. And that process, it hurts. Because when illusions fall away, there's a moment where nothing replaces them yet. And that emptiness can feel terrifying. But emptiness is not always loss. Sometimes it's space. Space for truth. Space for sincerity. Space for a stronger version of you to take shape. You may have noticed that you're more honest with Allah now. You don't dress your du'as with fancy words. You don't pretend you're okay when you're not. That honesty is intimacy. Allah loves when you come to Him as you are, not as you think you should be. And in this honesty, something subtle happened. Your faith stopped being performative. It became personal. You're no longer holding on just because you were taught to. You're holding on because you've seen what letting go feels like, and you don't want that emptiness again. This is what it means to have lived faith. Not inherited faith. Not borrowed faith. Faith that was earned through tears, confusion, and staying anyway. This is why Allah trusted you with this kind of test. Because He knew you wouldn't abandon him in it. Even when you felt distant, you still turned back. That matters more than you know. And here's the part that brings closure. This season was not meant to last forever, but it was meant to change you forever. You are not walking out of this the same person who walked in. You're quieter now, more grounded, less reactive, more aware of Allah's presence in small moments. That's not coincidence. That's transformation. And when the answer finally comes, whether it comes as relief, clarity, or a new direction entirely, it will meet a heart that is no longer desperate. It will meet a heart that can receive without clinging. And that's when blessings stop becoming tests and start becoming gifts. In the final part, we'll gently bring this journey to rest. We'll talk about how to move forward without fear, how to trust Allah after silence, and how to carry what you've learned into whatever comes next. Stay with me. You've already come this far. Take a slow breath right now. Not because everything is suddenly fixed, but because you made it through something that almost changed you in the wrong way, and it didn't. That matters. There are people who went through less than you and became harder, angrier, more distant from Allah. But you didn't. You bent, but you didn't break. You questioned, but you didn't walk away. You felt tired, but you stayed sincere. And that's why this ending is not about excitement. It's about peace. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on answers arriving immediately. The kind of peace that says, even if I don't see it yet, Allah knows. You don't need to rush out of this season. You don't need to force closure. Some chapters end quietly. And that's okay. From here forward, life may still test you. But it won't test you the same way. Because now you trust differently. You wait differently. You pray differently. There's less panic in your heart. Less bargaining. More surrender. That is growth. If Allah brought you through silence without losing yourself, then whatever comes next will not destroy you. It will meet you prepared. And when doubts come back, because they sometimes do, remember this moment. Remember that you were seen, that your patience was counted, that your quiet endurance reached places your voice never could. Before you leave, I want to ask you something deeply personal. What part of this message felt like it was talking directly to you? You don't have to write a long comment. Even one honest sentence is enough. Sometimes your words help someone else realize they're not alone. And if there's a person in your life who's been struggling silently, someone who keeps showing up even though they're tired, share this with them. You might be part of Allah's mercy reaching them. If you want to continue this journey with us, stay connected to Deen and discipline. The next video will speak to those moments when faith feels heavy, but your heart still believes. For now, don't rush. Don't overthink. Just sit with this truth. You were never forgotten. You were being prepared. And Allah is still with you. Closer than you think.